Hi, I'm Ben, and this is Fletch, my coach. We're sharing a short weekly check-in as we build towards Badwater 135. We'll start with a quick summary from each of us, and then we'll go into a kind of topic. This week, we'll just talk about the training program, but in future weeks, we'll look at specific topic. You'll hear both sides, what I did, the running bit, and then from Fletch, you'll hear about the data and the plans and what that means for the next steps. And then hopefully in it, there'll be some interesting bits that you might be able to apply to your training. Right, let's get started. So Fletch, over to you with your summary of the week in a sentence.
Yeah. This week, seeing as we're only Wednesday, has already been a little bit of a shit show. apart from that, we're all good.
Yeah, so I'm flying solo this week. Laura's in Vietnam, so on top of the training program that we'll dig into, that Fletch has just brutally landed on me. I'm doing all the childcare and all the rest of it. So, as with all these things, the preparation is not quite as you might read in the books. It's a little bit more fluid.
Yeah, when you've got real life situations being thrown in the mix.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. So the training plan. So where are we up to with this week?
You've just done a very special session this morning.
A new session, one I'm not looking forward to for next week either.
Well, you were getting too good at the other one, so I thought we would throw in a little bit of a mix. You were enjoying it too much.
Yeah. So this morning, so in I suppose a typical week, I seem to have Wednesdays is my double interval day, right? So I seem to get beset two sessions, two interval sessions, and today was 3 by 3 kilometers, which there's no way of dressing it up. It was just really quite hard. I'd meant to be hitting 4 kilometer splits, and I couldn't today. I was about 4:05, but I guess my zones have just shifted since the last lactate test, haven't they? So
4:05 still pretty good. You'll be like, I couldn't quite hit that. It was 5 seconds off over an entire kilometer.
I thought I was going to be about
Mr. Metronome.
Yeah, well, I know, but you know, I like to, if you say a number, I like to hit it. So that's the whole point.
Yeah, so we upped you a little bit from last time because we've been sort of, for context for those who may be watching, the double threshold is kind of a nice opportunity to spread out a big threshold session and kind of chunk it into 2 sessions. However, we've been doing that for a little bit of time now, kind of now aiming to get a little bit more volume into the threshold session early in the day. And we've now turned the second threshold into more of like a speed work, more interval-based workout. So as we're now building up towards that Daytona 100 first, moving in towards Badwater next year, we do need to get a bit more volume into the legs without just sort of throwing everything at the long run. Now we can start building up a little bit of more from any animal rights people out there, more meat on the bone, trying to get a bit more stuff into the system. And 3 is a nice round number. I'm going to say do 2.5 kilometers, please. You'd be like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you probably would love to have stopped at a half a kilometer in.
I was going to say the 2.5 kilometer mark. I was quite disappointed it wasn't 2.5K. It was. It's like one of that. I mean, I always remember back to the first interval session you set me, and I think I had to do it on my treadmill actually, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something like a kilometer at whatever pace or something, and with it
like 3 by 4 minutes. I think you were doing
3 by 4 minutes, something like that. And I remember thinking, I can't do that. Like, like there's no way. And the first one, like the rest was sufficiently long enough just that I was like, oh, actually, this is possible. And then how many months later, well, here we are.
3 kilometers at that same pace.
Yeah. And it's, no, I mean, if we look at it, it's made a massive difference, right? Hasn't it? I've the kind of just the ability to hold those paces has meant that in the longer runs, if I think about my training before, I just ran, right? I just was like running, thinking about load and like doubling long runs and things like that, but never, there was no speed work as such. And now I think, the the week has 2 rest days, so that's also like a different setup.
Yeah, yeah.
And it seems to be working. Yeah.
Well, I think that's where that's where I see from an outsider's perspective, and also and an insider's perspective, is so many people go into these events probably more fatigued than they should be, and there's such a massive dominance of reliance on the mileage being the thing that everyone needs to be hitting. So everyone looks at the elites and goes, "Oh, they're doing 200 miles a week for there, so therefore I must be doing that too, or at least building up towards it." There's many different ways you can get the body to adapt to something, and stress is the sort of overarching trigger that we all pull in order to create the adaptation. Stress from frequency can also be a factor. Stress from intensity, stress from volume, stress from life. All those things add to the stress pot, but we don't actually get to see the benefits of that stress until we recover. So it's the adequate recovery, which I think a lot of people don't really appreciate with the volume conversation, is that if you're always adding more volume and not bouncing back ready for the next session, then you're just constantly chipping away at your gains.
Yeah, and that's definitely without a shadow of doubt, that's where I was, right? I was just I was kind of thinking like the overall volume of the week, and I guess I sort of pride myself, if that's the right word, but like I recover quite well, so I was able to kind of stack these weeks with quite a lot of stuff, and all the real, all that other real life stuff, and I'd be like joking, but not joking. I'd be like, well, yeah, not only am I doing this 30K run this morning, but I'm also fitting a bathroom, like
Yeah.
obviously adding all this other stuff in, and then I guess wondering why over time maybe that's not not the best way to do it. But yeah, apart from getting around the total like mind games of 2 days off in a week and thinking that, but actually when you do 2 sessions on a Wednesday, it's perfectly fine to have
You're
another. Yeah,
welcoming that rest day.
yeah, but it's made a big difference to the week because I don't. Every day is different. Okay, some's a rest day, but like each day is different. There's very few sessions. I say that. I mean, at the weekend, I've got 2 20Ks. They're identical, or very, very similar. But there's much more structure to the week than normal. I'd say normal than there would have been. So that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, and even with the long runs up, so that first 20K you're doing, you've got a little bit of sort of 15Ks worth of steady, easy, as you would normally would, and then the last 5K is a bit of a pickup. And then the second one is just a bog standard, nice, easy, standard 20K. And what we're trying to get there is there's a little bit of stimulus of, okay, if you go to that second 20K, we'll a bit more fatigue in there, so that when you're recovering on Monday, there's a bit of that extra super compensation coming back in again to ready for the Tuesday and Wednesday and so on. But also starting to build in that idea of, well, if you are looking to build volume in, which we are, because we've worked on intensity for a little bit of time now, as we're going to want to build volume in, you can't really build it anywhere else. So we've got to then try and hang things off the hooks we've created, build up that work without sacrificing recovery.
Yeah.
But as you said, you bounce back really quick. So that's been a really easy mathematical equation to work on. Is if we put this much work in, we roughly know you got 48 hours and you're back to pretty much bang on again.
Yeah.
If it's a big long run, yeah, same 48 hours, you're back to pretty much back to normal again.
Yeah.
If it's a relatively easy session, like you can do that same thing 6 hours later if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of where we'll start to sort of play around with the gaps. And if we look at the training plan in kind of like a week overview, it's really conscious of, okay, if we've got a lot of work in there, we're going to need to sort of sacrifice that. Monday is like that's pure rest day. So no fitting bathrooms and those kind of things as we start to pick up things. But some things, flying solo this week, so some things can't be avoided, right?
Yeah, and that's the reality. It's like, today, I guess today, Wednesdays are a double interval day. I don't like, that's just the way it is. But today, because I had to do I had to do my first session much later. So normally I'd have done it before school drop off, and now I'm doing it after a call because I've got another meeting. So actually the result is I've done it at night, whatever time, finishing at 11:30 or 11:40, 11:15. Just means the window to the next session's shorter, so you but that's fine, And you said it was a shorter speed session. I'm pretty sure when I looked at the plan, the 4-minute interval has gone up to 6 minutes. I think we've been a bit of scope creep on that one as well.
Might have changed my notes.
Yeah. But so one thing that I think is quite interesting that is something you've explained, but for the benefit of this process makes sense. Yeah, obviously I'm trying to run 100 miles, the next race I'm doing is out in Florida in Daytona in mid-December, and it's 100 miles. And so, I guess a lot of people will be like, well, why are you messing around running as fast as you can for 6 minutes when you've got to run 100 miles? And the thing that the process you described, or we've talked about with the top end speed and the speed at various distances being a really good indicator and predictor of like speed at long distances. And obviously it would be useful with a graph. And I know I've just hurled that question at you, so you won't have one ready, but I'd like just to explain that a bit, because I think that's quite an interesting insight into why speed work is useful for long runs, and how actually getting quicker also gets quicker on the really long stuff.
Yeah, so I think we'd be good to sort of put it into context as to why people think that generally like running slow for slow races is key, because people tend to look at fat metabolism as the gold standard. They want to be burning as much fat as possible. Therefore, they will do lots of easy running, like zone 2 based stuff, which has become very famous. And I've got a very sort of soft spot for zone 2, so I'm not ever going to bash it. But the upstream effects of working easy are relatively limited, because if you only get used to burning a huge amount of fat, then the glycolytic pathways don't really get the training as much as they should do. So if you can't imagine, there's you see like the volume thing on here is, if it's always in green, you never get to really get into yellow, and definitely not into red. But having said that, the downstream effects of working really hard are all encompassing. So by working really hard, it's the same triggers, the same physiological sort of cascades that help you eventually then burn more fat. So it's quite interesting when we're looking at, like, there was a really famous paper that came out that was looking at 30-second all-out sprints as hard as you possibly can, like 6 reps of it with 3 minutes of recovery in between. Like a traditional, when people look at that, it's like, that's a sprint workout, like middle 400-meter workout. But they had great, almost similar effects in endurance as working at just relatively extreme volumes, like 100 miles. So from a physiological perspective, you can get endurance gains by working really hard. And what we also see with working at harder intensities, we see greater effects on running economy, because we're starting to use our tendons a bit more. We're starting to use, we're firing muscles at a slightly harder, faster rate. And we then start to train that brain what the timing of running fast is like. That then transcends down to, well, the perception of effort at the lower end of speeds becomes easier. So then you're more likely to run a bit faster as well. So the trifecta of the benefits are physiological, psychological, and biomechanical.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't do all of your work up there. So we've got to try and Westwood. We've been doing the lactate testing with you and the VO2 max testing to try and look at your profile. Is okay? Well, how fast can we go for the biggest bang for buck, or the minimum effective dose at the top end? But also, how slow do we need to pull it back to make sure that we are sort of not applying too much stress, but enough to still develop it? I think a lot of people, when they get into the sort of situation where they're just running loads of miles to try and tick off miles, they're not actually stressed anymore. Like, it's just an accumulative fatigue, like a general fatigue, rather than like a training fatigue.
Yeah, it's like you get tired, but you're not doing anything. Like it's you
Exactly.
and I see that now. Like the weekend, like those 20Ks were at were at 5 minute splits, but I was like, I kind of had to slow down to fight. I was really kind of, because I just kept speeding up and going quicker and stuff because I was able, just that. But I never, I was nowhere close to that 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And it is that ability to run fast. I think when we did all those downhill intervals, there was kind of, I saw split, I saw splits on my watch. I know I've joked with you before. I was like, I'm pretty sure I should only see them falling off a cliff. Like, that I definitely don't ever expect to see a 2 something before a none, when I'm running, like, lolloping long pod or whatever the hell I am. So it's, that ability to run fast, and even from doing the stuff downhill, definitely made it work on the flat. It just was like, oh, I can, like you say, like my legs can move this quickly. Like, and I guess the downhill is a similar type of thing.
Yeah, sort of like, if for want of a graph, if we have the y-axis as here is speed, and x-axis, we're covering the microphone, x-axis on the bottom is time, we have this time velocity slope, or sometimes a curve. And the theory is by working at the top end, you move the whole graph up a little bit. So by working on your absolute top end speed, like say, for example, Usain Bolt, the fastest person, I think technically still on planet Earth right now, he obviously has a very high but short duration of speed. So what we then do by pollinating the training plan is we work on that top end speed, because that lifts the whole graph up a little bit. But then we also have to work on the speed at the bottom end to lift that tail end up too. So rather than it being a very steep slope, we now start to sort of dog leg the bottom of the slope up. So we have to think about the whole thing, the whole spectrum. Otherwise, we then start to then tinker around and start to flatten out. And if we want to move the whole thing up, we have to work the whole spectrum.
Cool. Well, it seems to be working so far. So we'll.
But it's a question we get a lot on. So especially from ultra athletes in general, not just running, but cyclists and cross country skiing and those kind of things, is I'm working too hard because I'm supposed to be going slow, because more like the average pace of my race is slow. And specificity is probably one of the biggest killers of performance, because if you just wanted to be specific, just race all the time. Just go and race every weekend if you wanted to. But you have to train to become better at the race. And training is not racing. And, lifting heavy is really good for muscle fibers and actually makes you run better. But the reps are low, the weight's high, and people get trapped into, well, if I'm doing lots of them, I'll just do 50 squats at easy body weight, and that's my strength training. You're not getting stronger that way. Same way, if you're just doing loads of miles at a relatively slow speed, you're not actually building fitness. Okay, yeah, you're doing a lot of work on your tendons and your bones and all those kind of things. Good, but actually that can also be at a detriment, because too much work and not enough recovery, you're going to get a stress fracture.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so then this week I've got the rest of the week is, apart from the next problem of today's session.
The twin.
But that's the interesting one. So I think it's like 3:45 or something, and I'm definitely feeling like the limit there is, it's obviously, it's like at the limit of how quickly I can get going. Yeah, and I guess maybe I've not done, I haven't done many hills recently, and I've not done many fast downhills. Maybe it's kind of, it's like, it's hard. It's kind of system hard. It's hard fitness wise, but it's actually just hard flat out to get that fast. That's the kind of combinations. Well, I'll say, I'll let you know how it goes.
Do you want me to share my screen and talk through it? Would that be beneficial?
Yeah.
Bring it up. So this is kind of what Ben's got on today. So it's that threshold in the morning with a 3x3.
We can mark that first one as done. That's
oh, there you go. You tick it off for me.
Yeah.
Tell me how you fueled for it after the school run.
Yeah.
And then this is the second session, is 3x6. So what we did previously is we tackled a 4x4, We've also done a 5x5 as well with regards to threshold. You're away then. So we can't be working on the 4x4 and the 6x4 getting to this point, and now we're just flipping it around. So we reduce how many reps we're doing, but we're just going to increase the time. And this is much more geared towards VO2 max. VO2 max is still a massive predictor for endurance performance. Endurance encompassing everything from the 5K pretty much up. So what we really want to be able to do with the intervals is spend as long as we can in that sort of 95 or 90% of VO2 max and hold it there. And, that's kind of where you've been playing around with the 4 minutes is we reduce the recovery time a little bit. So like you said, it's just enough recovery time to bounce back to get ready for the next set, but not so much that you feel like fully recovered. It's a slog getting back up again.
Yeah.
So that 2 minutes in regards to the 6 minutes is perfect. Sometimes with the 4 minutes, we bring it down to 1 minute recovery.
Yeah, I was going to say the 4 minutes tended to be a 1 minute break for the thing, which is enough. You get your breath back. You feel, you don't feel like you're sorted, but you definitely don't feel, you feel like you're ready to go again. It's not a kind of limited. Cool. Okay. Well, I think, that sounds good to me. I'll, I say good. It's like, type 2 fun type of good, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, it's kind of, Wednesdays have turned into this kind of bit of a beast of a day, but it's quite nice as it's become, I know it's there, right? So I kind of plan the week as best I can. But it was a couple of weeks ago, I didn't get back from London, and I was going out in the rain at like 9:45. I was like, this is a bit annoying.
This is no longer type 2 fun at all.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
I think that's where, with the sort of the general ethos with all this stuff is if it's supposed to be a hard day, make it hard.
Yeah.
And if it's supposed to be an easy day, make it really easy. That's sort of the polarized method.
Yeah.
And, we've sort of like put in those recovery days strategically to make sure that actually when we do want to go hard, we can. So it's not just like semi-hard. Well, that sounds wrong when you say it out loud. But when you get to that stage where you're like, okay, today's the day, you're ready for it, rather than be like, oh, I'm just so tired, I can't, my legs aren't working. You're just decreasing the quality of the workouts.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely feel like that on paper harder sessions I go into thinking I'm ready for this. I might be a bit apprehensive of it, but I'm ready for it. Whereas historically I would often have stacked it the other way, and I'd have had like, and I believe there's an element of this, like doing the kind of back-to-back hard sessions. So you're going into stuff fatigue, but that used to be my main kind of load, would be that kind of building up. So I spend a lot of time running thinking, God, I feel tired starting this. Whereas now the big sessions, I go in feeling quite, I say fresh, I'm like ready to go. So that's definitely something.
Yeah. And I think it probably is the same for a lot of people. Like one of the reasons why we've taken the decision to work on your intensity is because you've got so much work on your base.
Yeah.
And for some people, we need to work on the base first and be like, okay, actually, you do need to work on just mileage and just ticking off things because you need to get better at recovering from just running.
Yeah.
But where you've already done that and you did that accumulator in through December, and what we looked at the program was that running isn't the problem. It's being able to sort of focus key attributes to the running.
Yeah.
And so some people actually do need to focus more on just ticking off, okay, today I'm going to do 5K, tomorrow I'm going to do 5K again, I'm going to have a recovery day, then I'm going to do 10K. This becomes less about like the intensity and more about just getting out there. Okay, if you want to talk about the general population, just getting out there's a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have that problem. In fact, we've got to rein you in.
So just calm down, Ben.
He says setting 100-mile PB as part of a 200-kilometer race.
Yeah, well, no, that was, that's because I was going so much quicker. Yeah, but that, I think, no, for sure. Well, I think next week I think we should, if we'll do this again, but next week we should maybe look at, I don't know, maybe we break down the kind of thinking around, Daytona. So my next race is Daytona. I mentioned it, and then Fletch's first reaction was to look at what the course record was for Daytona, work out that, and I'm like, hang on a minute, this is
out of interest.
Yeah, this is a distinct escalation from where I'm used to finishing. So, but the reason we're doing Daytona is because it's 100 miles. It's in America, so this whole like travel, being able to kind of race effectively with travel and with all that stuff. It won't be as hot, of course, but it's road, and there aren't many road ultras of that distance. So we're kind of picking off ones we can do, and it's organized by Bob Becker, who is like, if anyone wants to see Bob Becker finishing Badwater to get an insight into what it takes to be completely mad, then he's your guy. He's just done it at the age of, was it 80 or something? It's like insane.
Well, that was the year that he didn't actually get the medal, wasn't it? He didn't finish in time.
So there's loads of him crawling. I mean, I've got back problems. He was like in pieces crawling, and he didn't. He finished, but outside the time window, so got a DNF. But he went back this year and completed it. Yeah, quite something. I don't know. Maybe I'll still be doing this for whatever that is, 35 years. I'm not sure.
At one point, I'd like to have a weekend where I can choose what to do. I think there's kind of bring it to that particular person as well. I think a lot of people don't really think about how it's going to happen when they're in that age. So, everyone's kind of thinking like 12 weeks on the next race. And actually, you probably want to be thinking, I want to enjoy this so much more now that I am also able to do it later.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's where giving yourself a bit more recovery time and giving yourself a little bit more like variety can really help with the enjoyment bit, otherwise it's just really tedious.
Yeah. Well, that's my thinking around. I don't do many races a year. I mean, I find them draining. Not physically, of course, they're hard, but like actually kind of emotionally afterwards, you don't, and if you would, I think, clearly some people do lots of them and whatever, but I kind of feel in the mix of everything else that's going on in life, if you did them, it's probably, maybe it's selfish enough already, and then you add that in, I think it's kind of a bit unsustainable. You'd probably be depleting some reserve that you need a bit of later. So
yeah, I think for to context in regards to that, some people who are doing these events maybe have one kid and have a relatively, I'll say, forgiving marriage and job and so on, whereas like yourself is a very different scenario. Still very forgiving marriage, obviously, but maybe forgiving,
maybe supportive. I'm not sure.
Like 3 kids and like a very dynamic work environment where you're constantly between projects and working on travel up and down the country, as well as then also trying to factor in the training. It's a very different situation. Like one of our other runners turned up to a race at one of the UTMBs in Italy, and he was on the start line, and everyone was like early 30s, maybe towards those who were in their later 40s, divorced. Like the kids were all flying the coop, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I'm just here I just train now full time, pretty much. I'm almost retired." Like, that's how you do it. But you're in a very different scenario where you have got a lot more things to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, that's just the juggle, isn't it? And I think that's the bit that perhaps some people don't. I think often people think they can't do this stuff because of those reasons. And actually, okay, the training is, I wouldn't say it's not significant, but at the same time, it's not as much probably as someone might imagine, when they think about it. And that's always my thing. It's just go on with it. It's give it a try and don't do marathons. I hate marathons. Like go and do the long stuff, like much more interesting.
Exactly.
Cool. So where should, what one track we coaching, sign up to
Yeah.
Fletch coaching, testing. That's the thing I'm telling all my mates. It's like, do a lactate test. Like it's so informative, right? In terms of how the hell, we talk about training higher and lower, but if you don't know where the point is, you don't know whether you're higher or lower than anything. Like, so, I think that's a big thing for people to try and do.
Yeah, I think like, testing is becoming more accessible now than ever. You can buy your own lactate monitor and do yourself, but I think the context of that data is really important, and then the interpretation of it. With yourself, some people need to actually run a bit faster to get the benefits from the physiology, and the zone 2 is actually much higher than they expect it to be. I was like, with yourself, you've seen those numbers creep up now a lot more. And you're like, sorry, what? My easy run is now where? But that's not.
I had that feeling this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think actually, the better the trained the runner, we tend to see that they start to hang back a little bit too much on the easy stuff. And then vice versa, the people who are just sort of starting out, rightly so, are working harder, but then they need to reduce the volume down. So we can have that sort of all-round encompassing discussion around, okay, well, if we're here, then pull back on that. And if you're there, then increase that.
Well, hopefully our audience of like one person or whoever watches this will
Right.
will sign up and do some testing, because I think it's like, I mean, it's in the, I don't know when I used to do lactate testing when I was rowing, but that was decades ago. But now, since doing it, it's made the kind of increase in everything has been significant. So
Love it.
Definitely.
Someone's at my front door.
Good stuff. Okay, well let's wrap up there, and I'll let you answer the door. Real life.
Real life. There you go. See.
And I will go and enjoy my next session in a few hours' time.
Love it. I look forward to the notes.
Yeah, nice one. All right. Cheers, Fletch.
Cheers, guys, mate.
Bye, mate.